is hereby called to order. This board is established pursuant to Section 519.13 of the Ohio Revised Code by the Anderson Township trustees to provide administrative relief to any person or entity adversely affected by the Anderson Township zoning resolution. Betty, could you call the roll, realizing that because of some conflicts on tonight's schedule, we'll have some moving parts as people move off the panel for conflicts.
Okay. Jeannie Bechtold.
Here.
Fred Hayes.
Here.
Steve Haber.
Here.
Brian Johnson.
Here.
Ben Sanders. Oh, right over tonight. I'm sorry.
He's here.
That's okay. I'm here, present. Thank you for coming to this meeting of the Anderson Township Board of Zoning Appeals. Please be aware that this meeting is audio and videotaped and may be carried live on television. Our procedures: a summary of the appeals presented by the staff, then the appellant will have the opportunity to present its case. Board members may then ask questions of the appellant. After that, all persons supporting the appeal will be permitted to testify one at a time after being recognized by the chair. When those persons supporting the appeal are finished, those opposed to the appeal will then be permitted to testify and/or ask questions of the board after being recognized by the chair. All persons wishing to testify, whether for or against an appeal, may do so only after being sworn in. When testifying, each person must come forward to the podium, you can use either one. After being recognized, speak into the microphone, state your name, address, and affiliation to the case. Any persons testifying will be limited to 4 minutes unless the board requests additional time. All testimonies given to the board, and no comments should be directed to the audience. The board will hear only new, non-repetitive evidence or question. Should someone wish to show support of a previous testimony, they may do so by just stating their name, address, and saying they support the previous testimony. All persons who may give testimony this evening stand, raise your right hand. When in doubt, stand. It's not going to hurt you any. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you. Changes to tonight's agenda.
Yes, you will notice Case 2, 2013 BZA has shifted its way down to item number 6 on the agenda. Gary will be here to have some discussion with staff on that case, and he's unable to be here until later on this evening.
Does that one actually come under number 8, under deliberation of cases? We've already had the public hearing portion on that.
Right, you will be doing the decision and journalization of that.
Okay.
So my understanding is Gary's got some comments on the draft resolution.
Yes.
Okay. Is that also the same with number 7, or is number 7 now being remanded back to public hearing status?
I'll make this comment about number 7, which is the Martin Marietta mining case. There will be a motion to move into executive session to be briefed by legal counsel as to the status of that case and the recent filings by Martin Marietta. So we do not anticipate any public discussion of the Martin Marietta case tonight.
Okay. Well, then I understand number 6, the decision and journalization of Case 2, 2013 goes under number 8, and I move with that change we approve the agenda.
I think it'll be there at 6, but we can do it.
Okay.
Yeah, it'll be at 6. It'll be after the 3 in front of it are the public hearings.
I'm good with that. Then I still move we approve the agenda.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thanks.
Aye.
Okay, we have some minutes from March the 7th, 2013 to approve. You've gotten made any comments that have been received and adjustments? Do we have any further?
Yeah, I believe Betty received a correction from Fred.
All right, and
You did get that one?
Yeah, correct that.
okay, that.
I move we accept the minutes as amended.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, consideration of case 3, 2013 BZA.
Sure.
Would you like to give us a summary on that case,
We
please?
actually have Zach Sunderland. He's our co-op student this quarter from the UC Urban Planning Program, and he's going to present that case for us.
All right, thank you, Zach.
All right, the first case is case 3-2013. The applicant is Kent Bradley Rush Architects on behalf of Eric and Lauren Lombardi, who are the property owners at 334 Bishop's Bridge Drive. The zoning is AA residential, and they're requesting a variance to allow a 44 and 34 inches front yard setback for a garage expansion where 50 feet is required. This is location map. It's kind of hard to see, but the top left is where the house currently sits, and everything behind that is pretty steep topography, as well as to the east side. It is a panhandle lot and is approximately 6.8 acres. The existing use is single-family residence, and to the north, the east and west is also AA residential, and to the south is B residence, which is State Route 52 and Ohio River. The proposed development is to expand the garage approximately 6 feet north. The setback of this garage expansion is 44 feet from the front property line, where 50 feet is typically required. The garage will go from having 2 doors to 3 10-feet wide garage doors. The 2 doors on the expansion side will be about 9 feet tall, while the other door will be about 8 feet tall. The front of the house is also getting a new stucco treatment and approximately 3 feet of stone at the bottom of that, as shown in the picture. The bottom picture is the actual garage expansion, and then the top picture is the front elevation of the house. The new expansion of the garage height will be 19 feet tall, and the applicant is also expanding the foyer, dining room, and front porch, as well as making a 5-foot extension of the asphalt driveway. The home was constructed in 1986 in Lot 19 of the Regents Park subdivision, and it was recently purchased by Eric and Lauren Lombardo. Staff is in the opinion that the essential character of the neighborhood will not be altered, and the expansion of the garage to the home will be minimal in appearance and will not alter the character of the structure. And typically, the garage expansion is for a recreational vehicle, a boat, so that's why they're expanding the garage. Typically, recreational vehicles can be stored in the backyard or the garage, but they can't fit in the garage, so they're expanding it, and they can't put it in the yard because of the existing slope. And also, there's a buffer in between the yard and the property owner in the front of the panhandle. It has pretty dense evergreen trees existing, and the expansion won't really affect that buffer. These are just pictures shown. The top left picture is the elevation of the house, and then the top right shows the buffer that currently exists between the front property owner and the 334 Bishop's Bridge. The bottom left is the current existing garage. The expansion will be on the left side of the garage, and it'll go from, like I said, it'll go from 2 doors to 3 doors. And then the bottom right picture shows the side elevation, and it shows that there can't really be any more expansion of the garage to the east, so that therefore it has to be expanded to the north. Are there any questions?
Does anybody have questions of staff at this time?
Not at this time, no, thank you.
No questions?
No.
All right, if the applicant would like to present their case, please. Pick either podium, please.
Unfortunately, my husband could not be here tonight due to travel with business, but we are here tonight to ask...
Just for the record, can I get name and address?
Yes, I'm sorry.
That's
My name
all
is
right.
Lauren Lombardo, currently living at 7173 Royal Green Drive. This is a home that my husband and I have purchased at 334 Bishop's Bridge Drive, and we are hopeful that we can have a variance altered to accommodate our needs with a recreational vehicle. We think that aesthetically it will be beneficial for the property, and we don't see that there would be any infringement on the property by doing the expansion.
Questions for the applicant?
My question was, it's going to be almost 19 feet high, is that to accommodate the size of the boat?
The height, yes.
Yeah.
There's an existing vegetative screen that exists between your property and lot number 18. But those trees are grown over the years, and the screen is really higher than the normal property usage place. Do you intend to maintain that screen?
Yes, we have actually been in touch with the property owner of that home and discussed the possibility of expanding that screen, actually, at a cost to be determined by probably both of us to their satisfaction.
That screen is on their property, not yours, is that what you're saying?
I believe it's on the property line, and I don't know if it was put there by the previous owner or their previous owner, because it has, as you say, grown over time.
Yeah. Thank you.
Questions? I have one or two. Do you have any of the, do you have approvals required under your homeowners association for these? Or are there approvals required, and have they been granted?
I am not aware that there are approvals needed, although I do know that there are members of that institution here tonight.
Okay. And the second, the expansion, is the expansion to add this third bay, it cannot be accomplished within the existing setback? Or is it because you're trying to build something a little bigger on the new bays?
Are you speaking about the garage expansion?
Yes, the garage.
Yes. The depth of the current garage is not deep enough to accommodate the boat, and therefore, I think you can see on the new plan, there is, the design of the garage is such that if we did only one expansion on the depth, it would not, I don't think it would be possible with the, design.
All right, and this is a question for staff, just for clarification. The only part of the structure that's going to be within the setback is the garage expansion, right? Nothing on the front of the house?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, thanks.
Is there going to be reconfiguration of the driveway to accommodate the new garage?
Yes, there is.
Yeah, okay. Existing,
No, that's the same.
okay.
And that additional 5 feet is to permit turns into the garage that's closer?
Correct. We would need that clearance to be able to have access to the garage.
Okay.
And that's the only modification to the driveway, right? The rest of the circular drive stays the same?
That is correct.
Okay.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Would anybody else like to speak in favor of this application? Yes, sir. Either one. Either of the podiums, please. Just give us your name and address.
My name is Barry Franz. I live at 332 Bishop's Bridge. I'm right next door to the Lombardo's project. There are 3 neighbors that would be involved in being able to see this at most. 2 out by the street and 1 in the back, which is where my wife Sue and I live. I'd like to speak in favor of this. They are making a very positive and attractive addition, and adding the distance on the garage and the turnaround will not be a problem at all. It basically won't be visible. It's several hundred feet behind the house in front of it, and we would like to be supportive of their work.
Thank you. Any questions? Thank you very much. Anyone else like to speak in favor of this? Yes. State your name and address, please.
I'm Mary Buckley, and we're the house, 336 Bishop's Bridge, the house directly in front.
It's on Lot 18.
Yeah, and we spoke with Mr. Lombardo earlier in the week, and we also don't have a problem. However, I did want to clarify that the trees that were shown are not the ones that cover the garage. So there are no trees covering the view from the garage to our house, if that makes sense. But as Mr. Lombardi talked about, we talked about working something out that way. But as far as the actual structure, we have no opposition to.
All right. Questions?
And ma'am, what would you like to see as, when you say work something out? What do you want to see in that working it out?
Just because the garage will be coming a bit, right now from our kitchen and on the center of our house to the left, you can see straight back there as is already. So just having that further, I don't know, we didn't really get into that detail as far as bushes or trees or anything. We just discussed the possibility of talking in the future as far as what we could do.
Thank you.
Anyone else like to speak in favor of this? Yes, please.
My name is Janet DeLella, and I am president of the Regents Park Homeowners Association. And we were not given an opportunity to look at their plan ahead of time, which is standard procedure for any additions. But after getting the plans and reviewing them and checking with our attorney, we see no problem in what they wanted to do. And I think the aesthetics can be worked out between the neighbors. So we are in agreement with this.
All right. Thank you very much.
A question, please. Is there some kind of process, formal process with the association that needs to happen, like an application as far as modifications to the structure that's required?
We have covenants and regulations that just ask the homeowners that if they want to put in a pool or an expansion or put on a big deck or reroute their driveway or something, that they would let us look at the plans first, and if we need to notify other neighbors, we will do that. But we already gotten the plans here, and when the board hearing sign went up and the neighbors, I informed all the neighbors on what it was about. So that's why we're all here tonight. We don't have any formal application or anything. No, we don't.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Anyone else like to testify in support of this application? Would anybody like to testify in opposition to this application? Does the board have any further questions of staff or the applicant on this? No?
No, thank you.
Being no further questions or comments, we'll close the public hearing portion of this. By way of procedure, what we'll do is we'll conduct the public hearings that we have tonight, and then later on in the evening, talk about each of the cases. And what we usually will do is take a straw vote and sometimes even a final vote, just depending on the lateness of the evening. So we do have 2 more public hearings and a couple of other things before we'll get back into deliberation, just as a matter of process. Okay. I don't know, if we're live on TV tonight, you can probably go home and watch it. Anderson Cable. Next case, case 4-2013. Allison, are you going to present this case?
Yes, I
Thank you,
can.
Gary.
Okay. Our applicant for this case is Jonathan Evans of Evans Engineering on behalf of D&B Henry LLC, who's the property owner. The address is 8181 Beachmont Avenue, and this is Plants by Wolfengal. Following Case 1, 2012 PUD, which approved the redevelopment of the front portion of this parcel for a Taco Bell, Plants by Wolfengal is now in the building permit process on the rear of the parcel, where the zoning is both E-retail as well as DD residence. The request is to allow a fence 4 feet and 6 feet high of a privacy style in the panhandle portion of the property. There are 2 variances involved in this. The first is for the privacy style, where front and side yard fences are required to be 75% open and a maximum of 4 feet in height, as well as a variance for a structure in the panhandle portion of the parcel. So here you can see a location map. To the north on this is Beachmont Avenue, and this demonstrates the panhandle as well as the location in front that has now been redeveloped as the Taco Bell. Here's also an aerial photo, though this is from 2011. So as you can see, the fence is existing on site. It was installed during the building process of Taco Bell. In 1998, a zoning certificate was issued for the construction of 2 storage barns, as well as a split rail fence and privacy fence on Beachmont Avenue. This fence remained in place until following Case 1, 2012 PUD, which approved that redevelopment. And during this construction process, the original split rail fence and privacy fence were removed and replaced with this new privacy fence. So staff feels that the property in question will be able to yield a better return with the granting of this variance. The privacy fence will allow for the screening of adjacent properties from the drive-through area of the Taco Bell, as well as screen the Taco Bell from view of adjacent properties. The variance will not adversely affect the delivery of government services. The panhandle portion of the property does satisfy the zoning requirement of having 20 feet of frontage on Beachmont Avenue. However, it's not currently used to access the property, as they have connectivity through Taco Bell and New England Club Drive, as well as access way existing there. The property owner's predicament cannot be feasibly obviated through some method other than a variance. While landscaping materials are encouraged for screening purposes, the fence is existing and achieves this. The spirit and intent behind the zoning requirement will be observed and substantial justice done by granting the variance. The panhandle portion of the parcel does not currently function as a panhandle and is not used for access. So from a passerby on Beachmont Avenue, it appears more as the side yard of the adjacent Taco Bell development.
Questions for staff? Yes, Fred.
Allison, can you help us understand which portions of the property are zoned E and which are zoned double D?
Sure.
And the reason for my question is that if I understand the resolution, the zoning resolution correctly, there is no required side yard for the portions that are zoned E.
Correct.
Okay. So which portions are E and which portions are double D?
Yes. On this map, the orange area to the south is DD residence, while all of the red is E retail.
It says right there on the screen.
Well, there's no E there.
Other than the,
But the fence is entirely
It's entirely in the E portion.
E portion. Okay. Second question, Allison. The previous zoning certificate
Yes.
was for a solid fence.
For both a split rail as well as a solid fence.
And as I understood that zoning certificate, if the fence had been untouched,
If the fence remained, it would still be remaining today. The applicants went ahead and replaced it. It would just deteriorated over time.
but it's substantially the same
Right.
same fence. The particular materials are different, and maybe substantially different in the 4-foot section at the front of the property, but substantively, it's essentially the same. Is that correct? Okay, thank you.
other questions for staff? And if this wasn't, half of this variance is caused by it being a panhandle.
Correct.
in the Panhandle to get technical frontage to Beachmont? Okay.
Thanks for that clarification.
All right, that deals with half of it. And if it wasn't been a Panhandle, then we just have the open
Right.
and the portion of it that's a little too high.
Yep.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Trying to figure out where the other one was.
Would the applicant or its representative like to present its case to us, please?
Good evening. I'm Jonathan Evans from Evans Engineering, and here to represent the applicant, which is actually D&B Henry, and Mr. Henry is here in attendance tonight to answer questions if need be, but they're actually developing the property to the rear as a Plants by Wolf angle. That's what the business used to be there. They're under construction now, soon to be finished, they hope, but they're building in the rear, so they actually own the Panhandle portion of the lot. So they, as the owner, are the applicant. But this project was a kind of a joint project to develop the Taco Bell as well as the new Plants by Wolf angle in the rear. The Taco Bell was opened in 2012, and you know, they made a really nice looking store, invested a lot of money in the property, and it really does look nice. So I guess during the construction, though, they were when they looked at it, they thought, boy, the old fence doesn't look that good. Let's, you know, look at replacing it with something that is more maintenance friendly and also new and nice. So I think the intent was clearly just to replace what was there. I mean, they don't want to necessarily block the visibility they have to the restaurant either. So, you know, it was more in line with just replacing what was there, something that looked better, nice, new, and kind of matched into the material colors of the building and everything. So, so they did just elect to take down the old one and put in the new one, not knowing that it was a violation, I think, of the code. So, yeah, I think once again the intent was just purely to replace what was there, and it was placed really in the same location as what was there. And I think, you know, it gives a nice visual barrier between the two uses. And also, you know, just provide some screening to noise and things of that nature. So I think it's an attractive-looking fence, and, you know, they did set it on the Panhandle, which allowed for them to plant some grass in front of it as well. And they did spend a lot of money on that. They've even got irrigation there, so, I mean, it'll be a nice lawn area that's there on the outside of their drive-through lane. So I guess that's really about it.
Questions from Mr. Evans?
I guess, I think you already answered it, because you said there was an existing, you just replaced the existing fence. There was no grade change between, did they raise or lower the grade?
The grades didn't change, but there is an existing grade differential between the Taco Bell site and the property to the east. And I think part of that was the reason they had the fence in the first place. There's a retaining wall there that drops off kind of severely, so I think that fence helps give a good, you know, barrier between those two grade differentials.
There was a nice, I mean, I caught that note in the application that,
Yes.
you know, that was, you know, people didn't want to wander off or.
Right.
something like that.
But I don't think the grade was changed at all, though, is the question, and that it was more just cleaned up and then, you know, planted with new grass.
Okay.
And
Thank you.
Other questions? You might have said this before, but just for the record, did you observe the old fence in the?
Yes, and actually it's in the application. I put a couple of exhibits that are in there. I think it was Exhibit A1 of the application did show the two types of fence that were there. It goes from the split rail fence with the chain or the wire interwoven with it to more of a vertical 6-foot-high stockade fence. So the first two exhibits, the A1 and A2, show the fence type that was there.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anybody else like to speak in support of this application? Yes, if you give us your name and address and affiliation of the case.
All right, my name is James White. My personal address is 5292 Aspen Valley Drive. I'm the Director of Operations for RGT, the company that operates the Taco Bell. One of the reasons we put the fence up, or we've at least discussed why it's necessary, is we have 52 restaurants in Cincinnati area, and one of the things we find, particularly when we go into a new unit like this, is we like to be a good neighbor. And one of the things that our business is a little different in is that our hours of operation are very aggressive. Most of our units, I have units open till 5:30 in the morning. We tend to have problems with both noise, light, and debris. And one of the things this fence in particular does is it keeps the trash that tends to happen at restaurants on our property, and therefore we can maintain that versus it becoming a problem for our neighbors. So something I'd like you to at least consider, because it happens, and then we have trouble with the adjacent properties because of those issues. So.
Thank you. Good point. Any questions? No, thank you very much. Helpful. Would anybody else like to speak in favor of this case? Yes, certainly. If you'll just state your name and address, please.
Yes, my name is Dave Henry. I actually own the Panhandle and the double E to the back. Address is 1050 Grays Lane, New Richmond, Ohio. And just very briefly, I was approached by Taco Bell toward the end of the construction, kind of indicating, hey, this fence is bad. The old fence was bad. It was very dilapidated. And they said we replace the fence with a like fence. Of course, it'll be brand new, and it seemed, at the time, just seemed like a real good idea to me. It's much, much more attractive than what was there before. So I said yes. So that's how we wound up with the fence.
Got it. Any questions? No. Thank you. Anybody else in favor of this? Okay.
My name is Gary Schneider, and I own Jonah Development, and I would be the contractor that installed the fence. We did the entire project for SDI Foods. When we went ahead and took down the old fence, I brought a machine out here to take down the old fence. We found none of the posts were actually in concrete, and I didn't need a machine at all. Most of the fence was ready to fall down. So, in essence, what I think we did is we improved the property, and we improved by taking that old fence down. I think also in the application, if you look, you'll see what Taco Bell's customers would see it as if they drove through the drive-thru, if there was no fence there at all. And Adams Heating and Cooling has been there a long time. Unfortunately, it looks like it's been there a long time. So when you look at the back of the building, my question to you is, if you live there, would you want to be looking at that? And I would not. Okay. I've got 9,000 reasons to be here tonight, because I've asked Taco Bell not to pay me until you guys approve it. So whatever you do is fine. I can afford not to be paid, but I would prefer you approve it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions?
A quick question, sir. I may not have been listening closely enough, but you said something about appearing like a parking lot and maybe somebody going through the fence. Can you say that again?
What did I say?
Or at least that's what I heard.
Oh, what I meant to say is that the customers coming through the drive-through lane, if there was no fence allowed, or if we had to go back to a split rail fence, there's no need to put a split rail fence in, because you'd see the same exact tall weeds and the unsightliness of the old building of Adams Heating and Cooling. So if the idea is take the fence down, put up a new one, split rail, we won't do that. That doesn't serve any purpose at all. Any trash coming from Taco Bell will eventually blow over at Adams and Cooling, and then that would be a problem as well. I also brought with me just this evening, I went ahead and shot some pictures of the new Clermont County Library, and behind that library, a $4 million project, they have the same fence. So if you need them, you can have them. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Steve, you have a question?
Yeah, I do. I'm just trying to find the picture again. Yeah. And maybe this is, I'm just going to throw this question out to you, because I think one concern I have is when you kind of put up a fence, and I understand the myriad reasons why you're putting this fence up, that perhaps on the other side, things kind of go away and don't enter into the equation anymore. And yet, I think there's property, if I understand the plot plan correctly, is that there is property that is owned by the appellant that's on the other side of the fence. And my hope would be, so let me go ahead and state this, that that portion of that piece of property is not going to go into the netherworld, but is still going to be maintained by the property owner. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because right now, it looks like there's, whatever pictures, and I don't know how old these pictures are or what, that there seems that there's some construction debris or something on the other side, and I'm hoping, I mean, I think this is my opinion right off the top of my head is this is a wonderful idea. I'm just hoping that that other side of the fence doesn't become, it's not the heating and cooling company, and it's on the other side and becomes, falls between the cracks.
I understand. And first of all, the construction debris was picked up this week, and we also back drug it, and we put down sod and seed.
Sweet.
Seed and straw. In addition to that, when I laid the fence out, I found the property line corners. In essence, most of the property we're talking about that is on the opposite side, we'll call it the Adams Heating and Cooling, is in the area of the grade depression, more closely to the front of the property. And we did go by there, and before we put the fence up, I cleaned all that out.
Okay.
So in essence, I mean, there's a fairly good relationship right now between Adams Heating and Cooling and Taco Bell. That'll remain, because what we don't want is we don't want those weeds growing higher than the fence.
Exactly.
So we'll make sure that we clean those out each time.
Right. Okay.
Okay?
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Other questions? Anyone else would like to testify in support of this application? Anyone like to testify in opposition to this application? Hearing nothing further, we'll close the public hearing on Case 4, 2013 BZA, and as I said before, we'll have a discussion and deliberation on it a little later in this evening's meeting. Thank you. Case 5, 2013 BZA, I think, Mr. Johnson, is this the case that you're going to?
Yes. I have two clients who are in that area, so I'm going to recuse myself.
All right, so Brian Johnson's recused himself from this case.
Mr. Chairman, I do know Mr. Fusaro. I work with him on the Anderson Township Economic Development Committee, and it's a good working relationship, but I see no reason why I would be influenced one way or another. I think I can still be objective in this case.
All right, thank you. Thank you. Allison, you presenting this case, or is that? Oh, Allison?
After I give him hand signal.
Oh, no, Brian, you can, or sit in the back if you want to work with you.
So yes, 5/2013 BZA was submitted by Greg Fusaro, the managing member, on behalf of Festival Markets of Anderson, LLC, who's the property owner. It's at 7721 Beachmont Avenue, and it is zoned E-retail. The variance request is to allow a wall sign 108 square feet, where wall signage currently exceeds the maximum allowed per section 320.102.100 of the zoning resolution. The applicant would like to add this 108 square foot sign in order to identify tenants in the area as sort of a directory. Some history on the site, you see here outlined in red. To the east is now zoned EPUD. This was the former AMF bowling site, which has now been redeveloped as a Buffalo Wild Wings, First Financial Bank, and a medical office building. There is a third restaurant user approved for the middle. However, that was just the general location of the building, and that site's still waiting to be developed. This was Case 2, 2011 PUD, and this development now provides vehicular access at the rear of the property and allows for movement of traffic between the Festival Market site as well as this new site. The zoning certificate was issued in February 2013 for the reconfiguration of the existing freestanding Festival Market sign. The location of this new directory sign is proposed here. on the rear of the building facing this new development. There's an aerial photo of the site prior to development, as well as a graphic of the proposed sign, and photos of surrounding conditions. Here we can see looking west at the proposed sign location, as well as looking at the surrounding conditions. You can see in the bottom right photo that this sign will not be visible from Beachmont Avenue.
Excuse me, Allison, because I think others on the staff probably have the same, on the board have the same question. So if you look at that top left picture, the sign's kind of above the white pickup truck back there, is that?
Yes, yep, that's the proposed location.
All right, and then on the bottom right picture, it's,
Not on the side of the building with the grid, the side of the building that has the flat surface, the taller portion.
okay, facing towards the, facing that way, okay. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you're fine.
So enough of us asking that question.
Staff is of the opinion that the essential character of the neighborhood will not be substantially altered and adjoining properties will not suffer a substantial detriment. Signage on the rear Festival Market structure is already visible from the redeveloped AMF bowling site, and an additional directory will not impact the aesthetics of this area. However, it could promote cross-access travel without vehicles returning to Beachmont Avenue and further promote that this cross-access exists. The variance will not adversely affect the delivery of government services. The spirit and intent behind the zoning requirement would be observed and substantial justice done by granting the variance. Additional signage in this location will not be visible from Beachmont Avenue, and it will encourage the cross-access that would fulfill the spirit of the Beachmont Vision Plan. The property in question will yield a reasonable return, and there can be a more beneficial use of the property, while signage could increase traffic to the property without, again, with cars not returning to Beachmont Avenue and keeping in the spirit of the Beachmont Vision Plan. The property owner purchased property with the knowledge of the zoning restrictions. However, the desire for this additional sign is present through the changing surrounding conditions now that the redevelopment of the adjacent property has occurred, and the opportunity for visibility on another facade now presents itself.
That's it? Questions for staff? You have any, Jeannie?
No, thank you.
That's Fred?
Allison, I have a couple of questions. In your finding in paragraph 3 there, you speak about a location that is littered with signage. I don't think that refers to this location of the property. I think it refers to the front up on Beachmont Avenue. Is that right?
Correct, and this sign not being visible on Beachmont would not further litter that area.
Not impact that at all. But I saw no signs back here at all.
No, there are none on the rear of this building.
Okay. Is, on the zoning certificate that was issued in February of this year, did any part of that have to do with any part of this part of the property? Or was it all up front?
It was all up front on the freestanding sign, just space changes.
So the details of that don't matter to this case? Okay. One final question. The wall signage currently exceeds the maximum allowed?
Yes.
Per the zoning resolution? How do we calculate that? Because as I looked at this is a fairly big building.
Yes.
Great facade, that I didn't bother
It's
trying
a
to calculate
unique
the square footage,
circumstance.
but it's enormous.
Typically, the calculations are made based on the frontage that a tenant has, and they're allowed to have 20% of their facade area. This being the rear of the building, the location on the structure, that tenant space has already used their 20% for their regular wall sign on the front of the building.
I think I've got it.
Trick
A little
question,
odd,
good answer.
yes.
Well, it wasn't meant to be tricky.
Seemed tricky to me, seemed hard.
And just a quick question, because I'm trying to get my bearings on this picture on the
Sure.
lower left-hand corner, looking east at surrounding conditions. What's the building that I'm looking at?
That's the medical office building. In this photo, I was standing about 10 feet south of the proposed sign location. Couldn't really stand where the sign's proposed to be, but this is the surrounding condition. This is the medical office building under construction.
Okay.
In this photo, it's just east of the rear building.
So it's at the south, it's south of the bank and the Wings
Yes.
restaurant. Thank you.
South and west of both.
Cool, thank you.
I think I do have a question. I'm sorry, I jumped here.
No, go ahead.
The wall sign is, they are asking for 108 square feet. What's the current, how much is it exceeding them? now?
Let's see.
How significant is that?
Good question.
So signage in the overall development is 845 square feet currently. And the max that they would allow for the overall development is 500 square feet. The reason why it's being calculated all together as one is because the sign is not going on the front facade like a typical wall sign would.
The 845 there includes this request?
Would not include this
It
request.
does not include this request. So the total is up over 950.
Yes.
Okay.
Other questions? I have one question. Allison, could you talk a little bit about the Anderson Vision Plan? I know you made some statements in here that it's consistent, and my recollection is that the township has, or my understanding is the township is doing a lot to try to have these connecting.
Yeah, the Beachmont Vision Plan encourages both the consolidation of driveway access on Beachmont Avenue, as well as it encourages cross-access between properties. So in this area, where you could not easily access Asbury from the Festival Market site previously, there is now direct access. So there's ways to travel between various shopping plazas without further congesting traffic on Beachmont Avenue. It also encourages the reduction of signage along Beachmont Avenue.
So this request is consistent with
Yes.
with what the township would like to see, staff would like to see in terms of planning and development along the back roadways. Thank you. All right, would the applicant or its representative care to pick a microphone and give us your name, address, and affiliation to the case?
Thank you. My name's Greg Fusero. I'm managing member of Festival Market.
I'm sorry. Just point out, did you get a chance to get sworn in before you?
No, we can't.
Because you came in after we did that. Let's, if you don't mind real quick, since this is a formal proceeding, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. Please proceed. Sorry for that.
My name is Greg Fusero. I'm the managing member of the LLC that owns Festival Market of Anderson Shopping Center. And what we're really trying to do is take advantage of a situation that's changed considerably since the buildings were developed, and that is that the property to the east of this center has just been redeveloped with the BW3, First Financial Bank, and Tri-Health's medical office building. The challenge for us historically has been that, and obviously we knew this going in 10 years ago, but the challenge has been that the building in the back that really has no direct frontage on Beachmont Avenue has always had a difficult time leasing, and in fact the rental rates that we get reflect that. And we've had a vacancy in that back space for 4 years now that we haven't been able to fill. What we're trying to do is get some exposure primarily for the tenants in that back building from the parking that the east side of that front building faces. The request that we're making has no, that signage, if it was approved, has no no visibility at all from Beachmont Avenue. It can really only be seen from Asbury, and it gives us really an opportunity to make the tenants that are located in that back building more visible to the traffic that comes into BW3 and the medical office building. The other thing that I think is worth looking at is the sign square footage permitted is based on primarily the frontage that the building has on the primary thoroughfare. And as Fred mentioned, we've got tons of square footage on that complex, but not very much of it that fronts Beachmont. So we have an L-shaped building, and only the one edge of the long piece of the L is actually frontage on Beachmont Avenue. So that's the rationale, and again, it really it not only does it help us, but it helps, again, what we're trying to do from an economic development perspective. The better the visibility there and the more recognition we can get, the more likelihood there is that we are able to fill those spaces and bring new or expansion of existing businesses into the township. So that's really our primary goal in doing this. Questions of me?
Questions?
Can you describe what's the construction of the sign?
Well, we've actually looked at two options. We thought that perhaps the easiest thing to do would be just to actually paint something on the building wall, but we're a little, and our sign guy's a little concerned about the durability of that, and if a tenant moves and we have to change it, what that looks like over time. So what we would envision is just doing a box sign that is basically affixed permanently to the wall, that we can exchange panels in that sign. That what you see there is kind of the look that we would have, because that keeps in context with the pylon sign that we have on Beachmont Avenue. So
Are you planning on lighting it?
yes, that would be our proposal. But again, I think that, we just want to try to get some exposure to the large customer base that we're seeing in BW3, and if the lighting is an issue, certainly we can, look at working around that.
Thank you.
Other questions of the applicant?
No, that was my question of what it was going to be made of.
All right. Fred, any questions?
No, thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Would anybody else like to speak in support of this application? If anybody would like to speak in opposition to this application? If not, we will close the public hearing on case number 5, 2013 BZA. Moving right on.
That brings us to case 2, 2013 BZA. We are at 6:23, and we expect Gary at 6:30.
All right. Do we want to
We can start deliberations on...
start a couple, we might as well deliberate rather than take a recess waiting for Gary, if that's okay. Deliberation on case, Case 3, 2013 BZA on Bishop's Bridge. The expansion of the garage to the front setback area.
I find a lot of positives about this request. They've got a recreational vehicle that they want to store on their property and conform to the zoning code, which means it has to be inside a structure. It looks like they're doing some significant improvements to the house as well. I think also significantly is that we're talking about in what I would consider to be an interior lot, and it's not fronting on a thoroughfare which somebody coming out into that required front yard setback might alter then the fabric of the thoroughfare by coming out in front of other buildings. We've had testimony from several of the neighbors that are in support, including the one that's directly adjacent to it. So I'm prone to, unless I hear anything else, I'm prone to vote in favor of this.
I'm of the same mindset, Mr. Chairman. I would like to include in our support of it, though, the restriction that some evergreen vegetation screen would be installed that is in agreement with both property owners between lots 19 and 18.
And I agree with that. My only concern is who drives that, who does then staff facilitate that?
We would not, before we would sign off on final occupancy of it, we would need that landscaping to be installed, but any agreement between the property owners, we would not.
Right. Okay, so as part of the process, the appellant needs to then go to the adjacent property owner, come up with a plan.
Correct.
And get that agreement, and we would need that communicated by, of the adjacent lot owner back to us and saying they have an agreement based on this plan.
Yes.
And then we can go ahead and move forward with it. Just wanted to clarify process.
Yeah, and so if they bring you a plan, and it's got both parties' agreement to it,
Right.
that's fine. If for some reason they're not able to reach an agreement on it, then they are
Then it would have to come back before you all.
back to us.
Because of that condition.
Okay.
I agreed. I think that the improvements, overall improvements to the entire structure are going to far outweigh the size of the garage, and I appreciate the fact that they would put it to the back if they could, but apparently because of the topography of the site, they cannot do that. And I appreciate the fact that they are going to conform to putting the recreational vehicle inside, so. And the support of all their neighbors was an added benefit.
I think the proposed change will be aesthetically pleasing, and variance would be reasonable given how the house is situated on the property and relative to the adjacent properties as well.
My only thought on this, and I'm fully in favor of it, is this kind of gets sold to us and the neighbors as part of a bigger project that improves the facade of the house, and is it fair for us to say that it's part of that project? I mean, they're going to do both? I mean,
Yes.
we can do that, right? Because I wouldn't want them just to put the garage up and say, oh, well, we never did the rest of the facade. Because one of the improvements that obviously is important to the homeowners association, neighboring property owners and things. Okay.
Yeah, we can do that by including the documentation
Yes.
of the
as
project in total.
language- Yeah, the language that we typically use of plans dated such and such, part of the submitted plans were the facade improvements.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
I'll take a stab at a motion.
I'll entertain a motion, please.
Okay, regarding case number 3-2013 BZA, I move that we grant the variance to allow a 44.34 feet front yard setback for a garage expansion where 50 feet is required. And it's going to be based on all we said before. Let's see. Let's see, I'm just going to, let me go through some of these things, that it's not going to adversely affect delivery of governmental services. We've already heard opinion from the staff that the essential character of the neighborhood's not going to be substantially altered. That accommodating the large recreational vehicle within the building is in accordance with the zoning resolution, and that there's a desire to conform to that regarding the recreational vehicle, that the surrounding residents have testified in support of the variance. And then I have a number, let's see. So we're saying that the variance is not substantial.
Right.
Thank you. Number four, the variance would not affect the delivery of governmental services we've talked about. The property owner purchased the property perhaps with knowledge that the zoning may be restricted. We don't understand that the property owner's predicament could be obviated through some other means because of the steep topography on the rear of the house. And based on the following conditions, and the first one would be is that a landscaping plan shielding the garage improvements from the property to the north would be agreed upon, that a drawing with the signatures of the property owners would be submitted before a zoning certificate would be permitted, that construction is in accordance with the documents dated, we have March 15th, 2013, and that the variance includes the total project as indicated on these drawings, and that construction commences within 1 year and is completed within 2.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion about the motion and the second? Thank you. Betty, could you call the roll, please?
Jeannie Beckstrom.
Yes.
Fred Hay.
Aye.
Steve Haver.
Aye.
Brian Sanders.
Nope.
Oh,
Brian Johnson.
I'm sorry.
Aye.
And then Rick Overton.
Aye. All right. Is Gary with us, or you want us to do the next one?
Okay. We're going to...
I am unloading things from his car, so we can go ahead and do the next.
All right, we'll do the next one. So we're moving right along. Case number 4, 2013 BZA, the property at 8181 Beachmont. The fence alongside the new Taco Bell. Discussion on this case?
Mr. Chairman, I'm highly in favor of supporting this variance, especially when I consider the previous zoning certificate that was issued in 1998, and the fact that the modifications made here were substantially in compliance with that previous zoning certificate, with the exception of the particular materials. But I see the materials as being upgraded and in better shape than if we had just lived with the existing certificate.
I concur. I think that the new fence is a much improved look, and there's also some safety issues, and I like the fact that they were taking into consideration the litter that they can maintain the litter noise and lights to their neighbors. I don't have any problem with their request.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with this. I think it's a definite improvement. My concern, and I'm not sure, I'm just trying to get into my head whether or not maintenance of the other side, which I brought up before, of the property should be part of this, and I'm not sure how we can even enforce it. So that's really my only concern, is that we don't ignore the other side. Otherwise, I'm in favor.
I'm also in favor. I think it's a nice-looking location. I drove around to the rear, and I think it would be nice if they didn't need a fence visually, but I can see why they would want one. And I think that what they put up appears both visually and functionally appropriate.
I agree with all those comments. I mean, this is going to be entirely in an e-retail area. They pointed out the safety concern with not having a fence with the drop-off and topography there. A good neighbor relationship, and improving the property by replacing a dilapidated fence. It seems like a fairly easy one to me. And the panhandle is, that's artificial, because it's not, the panhandle portion of it seems awfully easy to deal with. I'll entertain a motion. Somebody like to make one?
Want me to do it? Mr. Chairman, I move that this board approve the variance in case number 4-2013 BZA for a fence of 4-foot and 6-foot height along the edge of the Panhandle property for the following reasons. The variance is not substantial when considered in conjunction with the existing zoning certificate effective 1998. The essential character of the neighborhood would not be substantially altered. Whether adjoining properties would suffer a substantial detriment, they would not. The variance would not adversely affect the delivery of governmental services, and the spirit and intent behind the zoning requirement would be observed and substantial justice done by granting this variance. And I'd like to mention that the property owners, or the property operators more particularly, seem to be operating with all good neighbor intentions.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion or revisions on that motion? Not. Betty?
Jean Beckholm?
Aye.
Fred Hayes?
Aye.
Steve Haber?
Aye.
Brian Johnson?
Aye.
Rick Ovensmith?
Aye. Let's keep going or not?
Yeah,
All right, we'll do the last one. Brian Johnson will get to excuse you from this one.
Oh, it was your turn to...
Or just turn your mic off and don't participate, please. Discussion on case 5, 2013 BZA, 7721 Beachmont Avenue.
This is another variance that I feel strongly in favor for a number of reasons, and you know, beyond our typical tests that we give. I mean, we're looking at what is right now a very limited and contained retail area that access, the new access provided by the redevelopment to the east will allow vehicular access to it. So as an identifier to, a boundary identifier to this existing development makes a lot of sense to me as a way to announce when you're arriving into this area from another area. It seems through testimony that the retail spaces in that back building have suffered because of lack of visual, you know, they're just not very apparent. And I think everything's positive is that perhaps that retail business will, you know, those retail businesses will thrive better. More opportunity for somebody to move in and to do something where those spaces are, as he said, was, it's been 4 years, they've been vacant, so I think this is a really good idea.
I agree, Mr. Chairman. The only concern that I have on this one is that this is probably the first of many sign requests that we will receive as part of the new Beachmont Vision Plan, where we are encouraging traffic off Beachmont Avenue. And I think we need to consider better definitions of sign coverage versus the facade. What is the definition of the facade when, in effect, we are turning properties into having different facades than the what faces on the main thoroughfare? And I don't propose that we resolve this right here, but I think it's a problem coming at us.
Well, I mean, obviously, that was not one that's in our purview. I guess that goes to the trustees to deal with the code, but it's a heck of a good point, and one that we'd certainly like staff to bring up to the zoning commission and the trustees as to if we're going to encourage these back connections, do we have signage ordinance that is consistent with that, so that while we're happy to hear these variances, so that there's a way to handle them on a more consistent basis. That's a great point, Fred.
I thought about that too, Fred, that I thought, well, we're going to open in a can of worms if we start granting them to these rear properties, but certainly it's a wayfinder for the folks that are from the adjacent properties and these new paths that we're creating. So as long as it's aesthetically pleasing and doesn't get too cluttered, as we're worried about on Beachmont, I'm in favor of it. I am a little concerned about someone just painting on the side of the building. That can become tattered quickly, but I'm sure that's not something that they're interested in doing. And if they go to something that's a box sign, and I'm sure that they'll want to keep it nice. But that'd be my only concern.
Yeah, my only concern is the question that Steve asked and that you're raising now, which is, do we have a good enough feel for the quality of the sign and the materials and things like that, and maybe we can, if we do move forward with this, we can find a way to address that a little generically perhaps in here. That's my only hesitation, because I mean, the Beachmont vision plan talks about, and the township staff has spent a lot of time trying to get these connections that reduce the in and out on Beachmont, and the only way they begin to make sense is if you have a big retail property like this, people have to know where they're going. I pulled down there and I'm like, oh, you can get through here. I didn't realize you could get over to that, and it's a great addition, and so I'm all in favor of it. My only thing is how do we define a little bit the quality of the sign?
The owner or the managing member of the LLC described that as essentially the same as the sign that is already installed up at the front of the complex. It's lighted. It has the same functionality of being able to replace the tenants as the tenants change over. We could probably say similar to the sign at the front.
Yeah, he did say something about it would be some sort of a sign attached to the building as opposed to painted on the building.
Right.
So we can at least get that and of a similar quality.
You know, my only concern and why I started that line of questioning was, is this sign going to be lit?
And he said yes.
And he said yes, because I wanted to know that if that sign was obviously viewable there, but whether it was going to add visually through electric or whatever, and I'm not settled on that. However, I do like the notion that we would say that this is going to be a box sign, and if we say it's lit, then it can be lit. That would be of the quality that I think we're all somewhat kind of cogitating on right now.
And if they light this sign, we have other standards that will control that. We're comfortable with, okay.
Are there sign standards that they would have to comply to, Allison?
As far as the materials,
Right.
for this particular sign, none that I'm aware of.
Could you bring up the site picture again, just the old overhead? So if they light that sign, it's all surrounded by commercial. There's some apartments behind it, but it's...
Right. You mean in terms of light pollution?
Yeah.
I'm not too worried about that.
It looks far enough away, and it's going to get blocked. Okay. All right. Any further discussion on this one before we entertain a motion? Who wants to take this one?
Your turn.
Your turn, Judy. Brian's out, so it's...
I'll give a stab at this. This is my first. Okay.
Go for it.
I think that we should grant variance number 5, 2013. Mr. Facero, the managing member, provided some information to us and the reasoning for requesting the signage to give more visibility to his property back there, and it certainly would enhance the, as I said earlier, wayfinding and the chance for the tenants that have been suffering and kind of hidden in the back, now that we have this new cross-section through there. And I do think that it would yield a reasonable return because they would have more traffic, retail and commercial traffic through there, and it's not a substantial variance. It's not going to change the character of the neighborhood, that it is most of it's in the e-retail. It's not going to affect any government services, and the owner purchased it, obviously knowing that that would not be allowed, but the whole conditions around the area changed dramatically, so it's something that we should consider. And I think the spirit and intent behind the zoning requirement should be observed, and I think we should grant the variance. I make a motion to grant it. Did I miss anything?
I would suggest that we also note in the motion that
yes,
it's
thank you.
Consistent with the Beachmont Vision Plan
Okay.
and the township's efforts to encourage connectivity between parcels.
And I did not also add that we prefer that they'd have that it would be a type of box sign to match their existing signage out front on Beachmont.
So it'd be a box sign attached to the building.
Box sign attached to the building.
I have a motion. Any other?
Second.
Further discussion?
I would like to amend it to say that with our standard phrase of construction to begin in less than 1 year and completion by 2.
Is that friendly amendment? Is that all right?
I concur.
Any further discussion on that straw motion? Betty, if you could call the roll, please.
Judy Bechtel?
Yes.
Fred Hayes?
Aye.
Steve Haver?
Aye.
Rick Oversmith?
Aye. Okay, I see we're now joined by Mr. Powell. We've gotten through everything on this agenda except the things that involve Mr. Powell. First up, do we want to do the case 2-2013?
We're going to pause so Betty can change the CD out, and then...
All right.
What are we doing?
The case from last month.
2/2013.
Yes.
Okay.
Case 2-2013. Gary, I don't know if staff has a draft of a resolution for us yet. If you recall, this is the case that we took a straw vote on last month, and I believe that staff wanted council to take a look at this one, and particularly there was a condition in it.
Yes,
that
there's a
they had-
highlighted condition on back.
highlighted condition number 4, that I think was of concern to staff, and so we asked Gary to talk to us a little bit about that.
And, Mr. Chairman, it might be appropriate to move, I guess we can do both at the same time if you want, but to move into executive session to discuss it, because a couple of legal issues, I think, because you're in deliberation over this case, it probably makes sense to do it in private as opposed to out in public.
All right, I'm going to make a motion that we move into executive session to discuss with legal counsel.
And please, if the motion could indicate to deliberate on case...
For this case 2-2013 BZA. And then on the next case, we'll come back on the record and do the same thing because of some of the different people I think that'll be involved. So
I second the motion to move into executive session.
Judy Bechtel?
Aye.
Fred Hayes?
Aye.
Steve Haver?
Aye.
Brian Johnson?
Aye.
Rick Oversmith?
Aye. my stuff from that case. All right, back in session. Betty, are we hooked up, ready to go? Okay, on Case 2, 2013 BZA, on the property on 1339 Collinsdale, I'd like to entertain a motion on this.
Well, we just wanted to clarify that we're going to take care, we're going to remove that sentence on the end of the second paragraph and then take out condition number 4.
Correct. Condition number 4.
Okay, based on those revisions, I move that we approve and journalize case 2-2013 BZA.
Second?
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this? Betty, could you call the roll, please?
Jeannie Bechtold,
I'll abstain.
Fred Hayes,
Aye.
Steve Haver,
Aye.
Brian Johnson,
Aye.
Rick Overton.
Aye. The next matter on the agenda is consideration of Case 8, 2008 BZA, the Martin Marietta case. At this point, I need to step down from this case due to a conflict of interest.
I also need to step down as a conflict of interest.
So I'm going to turn the podium over to our acting chair, Mr. Hayes, and I think, Mr. Brian, I think you come up and join us, so.
Fred, you have to come hang out with me now.
I'll take care. We set?
Yep.
Set.
I would like to entertain a motion to go into executive session to discuss Case 8-2008 to confer with legal counsel.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Betty, would you call the roll, please? Any discussion on the motion?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear who seconded.
I did.
Mr. Johnson? Call the roll, please.
Brian Sanders,
Aye.
trying to figure who I got here.
Brian Johnson.
Steve Haver,
Aye.
Brian Johnson,
Aye.
Fred Hayes.
Aye.
All righty.
Microphone's on. We have resumed from executive session.
Mr. Chair, regarding consideration of case 8-2008 BZA, I move that we close deliberations for the evening.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Betty, would you call the roll, please?
Brian Sanders,
Aye.
Steve Haver,
Aye.
Brian Johnson,
Aye.
Fred Hayes.
Aye. Further deliberations on this case will be announced in the paper in the way that we normally notify everyone concerned.
Okay.
With that, I'm going to recall our normal chair, and we will go back and finish up the rest of the business here for this evening.
Do we have, oh, I don't know if they've even done anything on journalization. Do we need to recess? They haven't done anything on...
Have you got your drafts?
No, so I don't think we need
So yeah, we can go ahead and do that, and then I can have y'all look at the Raglan Road case in recess.
Okay. Oh, there is some more business to be done.
We're going to go ahead and recess while Betty works on the resolutions before we journalize them.
Well, there's a couple of things, Mr. Chairman. I formally hereby relinquish the chair to you. Brian's going to stay around if we can, while they start the journalization work, to have us look at an old Ragland case to find out whether we want to review that or not. So if we can do that quickly, we can let Brian go home for the night.
All right,
Is that okay?
sure.
Was I involved in that one? Does Brian need to come back up here? I don't remember Ragland.
So we can just go in there.
Back in executive session or not?
And you want all people that heard that Ragland
Anyone
case?
who heard the case to go ahead and just take a look. The 7150 Ragland Road case
Oh, that's, yes.
for a detached garage, they've now applied for a building permit. The submitted plans for the building permit show a height that's 2 feet higher than what the board approved. We're just going to have members take a look at it to see if it's something that they feel still meets the substantial compliance, or if it should come back before the BZA.
Are we looking at it individually or collectively?
Collectively.
We should do it
Then
out
we
here.
need to do it on the
I
record.
think we should do it out here. I mean, but I
Did you hear
wasn't
that
part of it.
case? Okay, so.
I did not, okay.
Yeah, we need to hear
What
it.
we do not have is many copies.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine.
Hopefully this will be quick, though, Jeannie.
All right, so we are not in recess. We will, so the question is whether this is a minor.
Right.
Thank you.
I was just going to stick these somewhere in the middle. So,
So I think I did, too.
Yeah, I know it. This is the one that abuts Newtown, right? We had a couple of cases with them.
And
No.
it's not a budding, it's down in that,
this is in the kind of funny subdivision where everybody has the address of 7150.
Oh,
Hermitage Club.
Okay.
So what was previously approved, it only came in for variance for it to be located in the side yard. Did not come in for a height variance. As the approved height was less than or equal to 15 feet at the midpoint of the roof line. And what we're seeing now is 15 feet at the bottom of the roof, closer to 17 and a half, 18 at the midpoint of the roof line. So it has increased in height by about 2 feet overall.
Do you have the actual
have
decision?
resolution, yeah.
Resolution, thank you.
So the resolution did include language that substantial conformance with the plot plan and elevation drawings dated August 16th.
All right, now we're looking
Which
at,
is this one.
Oh, that's the-
And this is just what arrived this week. So you're just determining, do you feel it is still in substantial conformance with the plot plan?
okay, so here they're saying less than or equal to 15 feet there, and on this latest drawing, I just want to make sure I have my bearings here. They're calling,
feet is
15 feet's
here.
there.
Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah, so
Do we have the
that's
minutes from that
17 feet
case?
there.
Do we have the minutes? Or is that just the staff report?
Just a staff summary in there. And that would, this is just to determine, do you feel that this is in this drawing is in substantial conformance with this drawing? Or is this something that you feel you need more detail on? You do need to reopen the case?
Yeah, I mean, the only reason I was looking at the minutes is whether we thought for some reason there was something critical about that height, and I don't recall that there was.
I don't either.
Because a couple of feet, to me, may not be substantial if it wasn't something that we,
For them, all they intend to use it as unfinished attic storage.
I mean, sometimes you just get the design ends up a little prettier if you have a more
And
overhead
that's
roof. I think.
what
No,
we kind of
that's a-
saw was just that this
That's a
became.
Steve issue. I'm sorry. It's a Steve issue. I defer to Mr.
I
Hager
don't
on
have a
that.
problem with it. I don't.
I don't either.
I still
Miss.
remember this thing as having the intention of it being detached was that they had an in-law suite at the top of that garage. And that's, I know that's not what's on the drawing now, but I thought that's what the intent
Well,
was.
what was kind of funny about this driveway location is that they wanted a side entry garage, but in order to do that with it attached, the driveway would have had to been relocated, and there's a
Oh,
manhole
really?
cover
Yep.
there.
Well, that's a septic system. Yeah, aerobic system.
So the drawings that we had originally were not that detailed.
I'm fine with letting it go.
I don't have a problem.
I'm good.
As the architect?
Yeah, 2 feet. Well, I think Rick brings up some interesting stuff, that if it's a better solution, and we're only talking a couple feet, then let's go for a better solution. They've obviously raised it a couple feet for some reasons, we may not know that. I mean, if it's used as a in-law suite or something like that, I think that's up to them, is it not? Even though they show it on the drawings as,
Well, and so any kind of interior renovation, adding a bathroom, anything like that, a kitchenette in there would come back through
Right.
our office for review anyway.
You know, I'm looking at this, because I don't think I heard this one. I'm thinking of the house, the other house that I heard back there on Raglan, because I think I was not here, because
I remember this one, I may have been filling
you
in.
may have filled in for me, because Brian was the acting chair, and you signed as secretary, so.
right,
Yeah.
right.
I remember it,
So
and I don't have a problem with it. I don't recall there being an issue.
And they will, they have to
would be
do
the
it
set of
by
plans that we
this
would
set of
approve,
plans
yes.
would be, which would be unfinished, I think that's fine.
Yeah.
is that
But
3?
again, it's kind of a funny thing to come back before you for a determination like that.
All right, might as well.
It's good?
Okay. All right,
Our own basis. Okay. Now we
thank
can-
you. Are you excused for the evening then?
Unless I need to say aye or...
Do you need any formal on that?
On that.
For Brian,
I don't,
No, not on that one?
Okay,
Thank you.
my pleasure.
have a good night, Brian.
Have some dinner.
All right, now we, Jeannie, musical chairs for Jeannie tonight.
Back to work.
Do we still need to be in recess for a while, or do we have?
yeah, a couple minutes.
All right, we'll be on recess for a couple of minutes while there's some typing done. Word processing. I want to show my age.
Now, the Collinsdale one we did, right? All I've got to do is sign that?
Really? Oh, yeah, but he's a deep thinker. Martin Berber.
All right, we've got to come back into session, and
Yeah.
just, this, at this stage, is just reading this, this proposed decision. Well, I see that's wrong.
No, yeah, that's...
No, we have
Which is this?
It's
mixed up.
mixed up.
This,
Just the
It's just the 4.
4 is wrong, yeah.
No, the owner's wrong. It's got one or the other.
Well, I think...
Fourth Lombardo.
I think the owner's right, because the rest of it's talking about the annual bowling site and the festival market, beach month.
It's wrong. No.
Case
This is
5.
3.
No, you can't vote on this one anyway. Yeah,
There's
festival
5.
market. 5 is festival market.
Then it's not for the Lombardo residents. It's 5. This is correct. It is 5, 2013. And this is wrong.
Yeah, the 4 is wrong. why don't we take a second and,
You
We
want to
can
go
just
over
do
5?
comments on that first one, and then we'll...
yeah, we'll do comments on case 5 on the draft.
That 4 thing
If
is...
Betty's ready, you see the 4?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Okay, other comments on this draft?
Bottom of the first paragraph, first word, maximum.
Maximum allowed, do you see that? Last line of the first paragraph.
While we're still in that first paragraph, they're sending granting variances. There's only one variance we are granting, isn't it?
A variance, yeah.
Single variance, a variance. All right,
Did you get the 4?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. My next one is all the way down to number 5 in the second paragraph.
Yep.
The wording is tough there, it's a long one, but after the semicolon, I think it should be the desire for an additional directory sign is created by, instead of present through, created by the changing surrounding conditions, now that the development of the adjacent property offers the opportunity for visibility on another facade.
Okay.
So I'd scratch "and" in the middle of that next to last line.
Got it.
Your wording there on another facade is interesting. That says that that'll be the new interpretation, probably?
Probably.
Okay. I'm fine with that. I think that makes sense. But I don't know whether you need to work that with anybody else as far as a consistency of interpretation there. I think
Well, and
that's the
it's-
right interpretation.
It's good wording for this case, as it won't set a precedent in the future for additional signage on a facade that's already littered with signage. It
Yes.
points out
Yes.
that this was a unique circumstance.
okay.
That's all I had.
Sorry, I missed one on that first paragraph. There needs to be a period after zoning resolution.
Oh, at the end of the paragraph.
Yes. Good eyes.
Sweet. You ready?
Any other
ready?
changes? Yes, I'm ready to entertain a motion.
I move we approve and journalize case 5-2013 BZA as amended.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Betty, would you call the roll, please?
Jean Beckstrom,
Aye.
Fred Hayes,
Aye.
Steve Davis,
Aye.
Brian Johnson,
Abstain?
Rick Overschmidt.
Aye.
Nice.
Okay. Now, the case 2-2013 BZA, we already went on the record and took this action.
Yes, so this is just the
Copy.
corrected copy.
It's the corrected copy for folks to have.
I'm actually noticing some spacing issues that need to get worked out.
2/2013, yes.
Yeah, we've already done that.
Right. Yeah, so we don't need, the only person who needs this is really me to sign it. Okay.
Did
All right.
we journalize that one?
Yes. Yeah.
Did we
oh,
move
we-
to journal?
Yeah.
And everybody
you moved to
voted.
journalize. That's when we came back on the record just for a second.
Oh, yeah, and I abstained.
Oh,
Yeah. You moved to journalize it too. All right, next up, case 3, maybe? Case 3, Bishop's Bridge Drive.
We'll get there. I just noticed things on the next one.
Well, if you got time, you can mark a couple of them, circle them for us.
Where are you?
I was really excited thinking that this was going to be the first one that there weren't comments on, because no one was saying anything, but then I see pens moving.
I was just waiting to give everybody a chance, and then we'll take our turns.
Okay, we ready?
Fire.
Okay, first paragraph is the same thing, is that the Board of Zoning Appeals grant a variance.
I didn't catch that one.
That's the one you had before.
I know. I buzzed
But
through
they've
that.
got a period at the end. Second paragraph, third line from the bottom, the zoning resolution requires. So instead of past tense, present tense, requires the storage. And then on number 3, at the end of location, I have, and agreed to by both appellant and the adjacent property owner to the north.
I thought maybe you might want to state the lots, the lot numbers on that.
Just the one, I think, and it's just lot
18.
Lot
19.
Property in question is 19, so that
Because if someone doesn't have the north-south,
the landscaping plan should be submitted showing screening improvements to the north
of the,
garage location.
and
be
agreed,
approved. Agreed?
doesn't matter. Well, it's an agreement, I think. And agreed to by both appellant and,
Owner of lot, is it 18? Do you have that?
I do not know. It may-
Somebody's got the drawing.
Would, and a landscaping plan be submitted showing screening improvements to the north of the garage location, which have been agreed upon by property owners of lot.
Property owner, by the appellant and the owner of lot 18.
right, right. However that gets worded is fine by me.
sorry.
Yep. Okay.
And they're like lot 19, that's why I don't make that distinction.
And then you have one other change at the end of the second paragraph, and it's further on than Mr. Haber's adjustment. The zoning resolution requires the storage of recreation vehicles to be in the rear yard or in an enclosed building, I think is the real statement there. And that's why they're moving to this, to the, in the enclosed building.
That's a good change. That's a good change.
Do when you say which is not possible, should we say storage in the rear yard is not possible in this instance? When we say the word which.
Yeah, I messed that up, didn't I?
Yeah.
Yep. And storage in the rear yard is not possible.
It's not possible, yeah.
As long as you're changing that sentence, it's kind of pedantic, but due to should be changed to because of. It's just
Pedantic? Man, I like that one. Because of?
yes. Due is usually a financial term. Due to. Due to, due from, money.
Because, you see that?
No, I was just liking the term pedantic.
You're a I'm an I like to think of myself as an amateur grammarian.
It looks like a pro to
in
me.
my-
Yeah, he just went to the next class, didn't he?
In my-
He went to the head of the line.
It's my hobby.
I don't know if this matters or not, but I've been trying to watch the zip codes, and on the application, it has 45230, but the actual zip code is 45255.
the property is, their current residence is 4523. That's why they changed it.
Well, the reference is 45230 in the application.
Okay.
But I checked the auditor's page that they had attached, and it's 4525.
45, yeah. Got the code on. All right. Any other changes? Any other big words anybody wants to say?
Pedantic, we're going to see if we can't work pedantic into it.
Into the next resolution, all right.
Honestly, I'm going to use that word 5 times in the next 2 days.
Due to the time requirements, I move that we move on.
I'll
Did you
entertain,
catch the due to?
Yes, I did.
I'll entertain a motion. then.
I move on case 3-2013 BZA that we approve and journalize as amended.
A motion? Do I have a
Second.
We have a motion, a second. Any further discussion? Betty, we have a motion, a second. No further discussion. Would you please call the roll on this?
Jeannie Beckholm?
Aye.
Fred Hayes?
Aye.
Steve Haver?
Aye.
Brian Johnson?
Aye.
Rick Emerson?
Aye. Okay, last in a long day. Is case 4, 2013 BZA, and Allison's already circled the first mistake for us, so we don't have to point it out to her. On the record.
That's no fair.
We don't have to point it out on the record.
All of the Lombardos again.
Popular people. Everybody had a chance?
My only comment is, it's really not saying that it replaced one that was there.
I'm having the same difficulty, June. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that that was an integral part of our
Decision.
of the motion. It was the first thing that was said. It was replacing
The one from
a
98.
dilapidated fence is what I wrote.
Right.
Where's the appropriate place to,
I'm trying to write that now. I think it's appropriate to just add a number 5. And the variance is not substantial, or this is what I'm thinking of, I haven't written it. The variance is not substantial when considered in conjunction with the previous zoning certificate issued in 1998.
Yeah, we talked about that. Oh, there it is, yeah, 1998.
I'd like to put the words replacing a dilapidated fence in there somewhere. Doesn't have to be dilapidated, deteriorating. Brian probably has a better word.
Dilapidated, I hear D-I-L-A-P.
You're not going to get away with that now, Brian.
One other thing, and I don't know how critical it is to add, but what I thought was an important part of their application was that it was, the fence also added a safety feature because of the drop-off between the two sites.
Yeah, I had the thought there is, I would add it into number 1. The privacy fence will allow for the screening of adjacent properties and sharp grade differences.
Okay, that works.
Ooh, I like that.
Okay, so at the end of number 1, after the words Taco Bell, we're going to put and sharp.
Yeah, sorry, it wasn't at the end. It's the end of that line, the screening of adjacent properties, and insert there, and sharp grade differences.
I'd say let's delete from the drive-through area of Taco Bell. That's not
Okay?
necessary.
All right.
Yep.
Good idea.
All right, so we have that correction in number 1. And then, Fred, do you have some final language that you want to add on number 5, your new number 5?
I'm close. Number 5, the variance is not substantial when considered in conjunction with the zoning certificate issued in 1998, since a deteriorated fence is essentially being replaced.
Fine with me. Want to pass that language down to, or did you get it, or you need to see the language?
I think I've got it, because he
Okay.
started with what he said previously.
Okay. All right, any other comments or changes? Not, we'll entertain a motion.
Do we want to add the thought in there of keeping the trash contained? Is the only other note that I had made.
Right, that's fine.
But I don't know that,
I don't know. I think that was just an added benefit.
not substantial.
Right.
Okay.
I move that we approve and journalize case 4-2013 BZA as modified.
I'll second.
Motion is second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Betty, would you call the roll, please?
Jean Beckhold?
Aye.
Fred Hay?
Aye.
Steve Haver?
Aye.
Brian Johnson?
Aye.
Rick Oberton?
Aye. Now, the final item on the agenda, the bylaws, I believe that due to the lateness of the hour and the need for more time to get some comments, that we'll put that discussion off till a future meeting. I would ask anybody who has additional comments to get those to Allison when you get a chance.
And change Mr. Haber's email address to not have a hyphen in it,
Yes.
so I get
All
fewer
right,
bounces.
So we'll quit cutting him
lost the
out of
dash.
everything. No further business?
Move we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all.
Thank you.